It's a fact that high-level people sit down and have meetings and decide things over the heads of many, many other people. That happens all the time. So, I mean, you could call that a conspiracy theory that, oh, I realized that those people that are on high levels in different sectors of society, they had a meeting and they decided on things. I mean, that's happening. Nobody can deny that. So, I mean, how's your view on conspiracy theories or conspiracy analysis, perhaps?
Yeah. Don't get me started.
Well, try to make it brief.
Two points, if I may. First of all, one thing which is interesting, I also have a very repugnant view on these sort of destructive conspiracy theories that are being circulated and really, contaminates the minds of a lot of people who are free thinkers and wants to find out what's going on, like QAnon stuff and. And but the thing is, you have to ask, and this is also a conspiracy theory, who are actually originating these? So for instance, like the flat Earth theory, it didn't used to be an issue for 500 years, and then just like 2019 or something, it started to emerge in these alternative platforms, and contaminating the narrative. So of course, if somebody is forwarding a flat Earth theory, and then in the next sentence he says something about the vaccines, of course he's annihilated. You cannot take him seriously. So that's a conspiracy theory, but I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of those very, very sort of bad conspiracy theories that are intentionally spread to contaminate the alternative media. And then if we come to the very notion of a conspiracy theory, how did it become an insult to call somebody a conspiracy theorist? Well, I did a whole program about that. I interviewed the American professor Lance DeHaven Smith. He's written an excellent book called Conspiracy Theory in America, where he basically analyzes how this concept became weaponized. And it was in the wake after the Kennedy assassination. The official theory had so many flaws in it. So the debate was not going in a direction where. So in the beginning, the perpetrators, sort of the advocates of the official narrative, they would argue with people, but then sort of in 1967, CIA wrote a memo, which is he analyzes this memo at length in this book, and they sent it out to all their contacts in media and said that do not argue anymore. Don't go into arguments about the Kennedy assassination. Don't discuss, bullets coming from the wrong direction, or why the Cadillac of the president was washed before they did the forensic examination. All these things. Don't go there. Just question the sanity of the person. Call him a conspiracy theorist. And then, he's insane. He might also, be maybe a Soviet spy. Today would say he was Russian influence. It's the same, And so Lance DeHaven Smith explains that before that, this term was hardly used at all outside the academia, and it was not a derogatory term. But after a few years, the spin they put on this term became sort of toxic, and then eventually, has grown into this very powerful smearing word that it is today. So a conspiracy theorist is nothing wrong to be a conspiracy theorist. Of course, if you're an investigative journalist, what do? You investigate.
You investigate conspiracies all the time.
So
in a way,
so that's why so when you're defending us, no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, then already you're playing into this discourse, this mind game, which is the spin which is put into this word. So it's very tricky.
Yeah, so it's intricate and sneaky, as you say, and it's very fascinating and interesting. And this thing that it started becoming this derogatory term after the Kennedy assassination is really interesting. Another term that we both think is fascinating and interesting, it has starting to become very much in use these days, is false balance. They talk about false balance, and maybe that's not just something in the media. It's more like debaters and in op-eds and things like that, you can, in articles like that, text like that, you can see this talk about false balance, and it's also used in a sneaky way. What is false balance, and what is the problem with that?
Well, it's also, just as the word conspiracy theory, it's a brilliant mind game. They play with language to corrupt thinking. So I don't know exactly how it originated. You could always think that I mentioned before that I have the feeling that the big media corporations and money are more and more aligned with intelligence. So you can almost think that some think tank thought about a way to, because if you take, for instance, Sveriges Radio, the Swedish public radio, where I used to work a lot for, they have the sort of promise to the listeners. It's called allsidighet, so to hear both sides of the story. That's sort of the main idea, that you're going to hear both sides, be objective. And how can you break this promise without breaking it? So you create this fake word, false balance. So you're saying, well, if you would have somebody here who says the earth is flat, and the other one
there it comes back again, flat earthers.
Then, and you give them equal time, you create the illusion that this is sort of an equal discussion. And so then they're basically saying that people who are questioning the official narrative and when it comes to vaccines or 5G or the climate question, which you have investigated a lot, they are basically to be compared with flat earthers, and also the problem with that is that who is going to make this decision? Who's going to say that this science is so settled now, so anybody who questions it is representing false balance? Are you going to give this? Are you going to give this decision to the authorities? Are they going to be like the Ministry of Truth then, to say that this is, this is the truth about vaccines, and this everything, even like, somebody who is, for instance, one very prominent critic of the COVID vaccines is Peter Doshi, the editor of the British Medical Journal. It's the last person in the world you can call a, tinfoil hat. But to have him on the Swedish radio to debate with somebody, or even give his views on the, the lack of transparency with the clinical trials, and that would be false balance, according to this.
According to that narrative, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very clever way to censor all critical voices from the powerful narratives that you want to protect from any criticism. That's what it is. So,
and if you can see through that, and if you can analyze that and drill into that, it comes down to who decides where crazy begins and where pertinent and relevant argument stops. I mean, somebody has to decide where the limit, where the border is between those.
Yeah. So then, if you would think in a perfect world where there is no corruption, I guess you could have a Ministry of Truth, but then you wouldn't need journalism. The role of journalism is to keep checks and balances on the authorities. How do you know that they are not biased? How do you know that they don't have sliding doors between the industry? This is one of the most powerful industries in the world. How do you? This is the role of journalism, which you basically abdicate when you go into this false balance stuff. Because then you're saying we don't have to check the authorities. We don't have to do any journalism. We just trust the authorities. We trust the Ministry of Truth.